Hi everyone, I'm Mike Green, Public Information Officer in the Allen County Commissioner's Office, and welcome to this edition of County Line. The American Academy of Pediatrics has stated youth dependence on opioids is a pediatric public health crisis, and by now you know Allen County is not immune to this problem. Local health experts are now focusing on the role parents can play in helping to fight this crisis. And at a recent news conference, some special resources for parents on the dangers of opioid abuse were unveiled.
Megan had showed me an email we'd received on our website about a week ago, and it was from a parent who said, really, you don't really talk about information for parents on how they should be talking to their kids about drugs and the whole opioid crisis that we've been talking about now for the last few years here. And so that made us think that it was really good timing because McMillan Health Center had just released a new brochure and information for parents to talk to their kids about drugs. And we thought, we try and embed in every message, how parents need to be talking to their kids and how these drugs are different today. But we thought, let's just have a whole press conference really devoted to really talking about how today it's so different than when you were a teenager. And I think I hear from people, from parents in the exam room, and I hear from people that they feel uncomfortable talking to their kids about drugs because maybe they smoked a little pot back in the day, back behind the bleachers at school or whatever. They smoked a little pot and they feel like a hypocrite talking to their kids now about drugs. What I want to tell you though is we're not in the 1980s anymore. Back then, if you did a little weed or you did a few drugs or something like that, you could maybe be stupid for a night and you didn't have long-term permanent consequences from it. That's not true today. And our speakers today are going to highlight we are in a very, very different era now. The drugs of 2017 are not the drugs of 1980. They're just not. They're very different, not only in their chemical makeup, but the impact they have and the duration of the effects they have on people. These are long-term consequences you're going to hear about today. So I think it's really important that we talk about not just opioids, but we have a real epidemic, not only with marijuana. People don't realize it's not just the pot back of, where it's 5% THC. It's 95% THC, and the kids are making it even more potent by making it into wax, and Captain Hunter's going to talk about all those types of things. But we are having a real crisis with spice. This is a very, very dangerous drug that people think is just synthetic pot. It is not. It is completely different, and parents need to be aware of that. You don't have the luxury of operating from 1980s information. You need to be current in what you know about drugs, alcohol, all of these things to be able to talk to your kids. And the reason it's so important is because, believe it or not, even in this day and age, kids still listen to their parents. People think they tune them out, but they really do value your opinion and the information you give them and the standards you set for your family. So it's important, though, to be knowledgeable. You can't just operate on opinion and what you learned back when you were in school. You need to really be current, and that's where we're very fortunate to have places like McMillan Health Education Center to bring us up to speed. So the purpose of today is just to really highlight 2017 is a different time, folks, and you need to get up to speed. So I first want to bring up Captain Hunter to talk about what they're seeing on the streets today. It's very, very different, and it's very, very worrisome for what's happening here in Allen County.
Well, some of the things we see in Fort Wayne and Allen County on a regular basis, we are regularly seeing fentanyl being sold as heroin, and we're seeing straight fentanyl being sold outright. Fentanyl is a synthetic opiate that is 100 times more powerful than morphine and is attributed to overdose deaths. So if somebody thinks they're out buying heroin, they could actually get into fentanyl and it could kill them on the first time that they try it. Some other things we're seeing on a regular basis, we're seeing spice overdoses. Spice is a synthetic cannabinoid. It is supposed to mimic marijuana use. However, it's nothing like marijuana, like Dr. McMahon said. We have seen some recent spikes in spice overdoses, and we've also heard of some spice overdose deaths. So anybody that goes and buys spice, there's no way to know that if they try it today, they're not going to have a problem with that. We've also heard that some people are having psychotic breaks after having smoked spice and not returning to normal after those psychotic breaks. So anything that's out there as far as street drugs goes, there's no way to know that what you're getting or what you're buying is actually that product. So one-time use of a street drug could kill you. So just avoiding any kind of street drug use is really what we're recommending here. And parents, you need to keep saying that message. Don't start. Don't try it at all. If you have peer pressure, come talk to me about it. We can get through this. But one-time use could actually end up killing somebody. And that's the real problem with the street drugs today.
Our next person we're going to talk to is Ben Goldsberry. Ben is on the front lines, and he can tell you what should really be concerning when you really need to maybe think about calling 911. But he's going to talk about kind of where they're seeing these issues, pretty much what Captain Hunter said everywhere, but what they're seeing. Especially I want to focus on the spice, because I don't think people realize how scary that can be for family members as well as the patient. Ben?
I'm Ben Goldsberry. I'm the Director of Clinical Services with the Three Rivers Ambulance Authority. To make Dr. McMahon's point, to talk about the scope and what we're seeing out there. So far, year to date, 460 of our patients have needed to be treated with naloxone for opiate poisoning. Now, of those, 11 of them were age 18 or under. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but the number I really want you to focus on is the thousands of people in our community that may have some form of opiate addiction, and how many of those people have children living in their household? How many of them have teenagers in their household? And even if that's not going on in your household, your children are exposed to it at school via their friends. So if you're not having the conversation with them, they're hearing about it from their friends or from other people who may not have the information that you want them to receive. We've talked about the dangers of spice and how we're seeing it contain all sorts of different chemicals now and have very unpredictable effects. Effects ranging from seizures, brain damage, respiratory arrest, people dying from this stuff. It's unpredictable, you don't know what's in it, and you're really taking a risk when you choose to use something like that. The other drug I want to talk about are the ones that are hiding in plain sight. You know, we've talked about looking under the mattress, but are you looking on your kitchen counter? You know, have you left a bottle of opiates that maybe you're prescribed for pain, but left them where your child can access them? You wouldn't leave a loaded gun on your counter. Why would you leave a bottle of opiates on your counter that could fall into the wrong hands? You know, the consequences could be very, very similar. So if you do have opiates in your household, you need to make sure they're locked up. Keep them in a safe, keep them out of your children's hands, and then have conversations with your children about drug use so that you can make sure they're getting the facts and getting the right information so you can stave it off before it becomes a problem.
As this crisis evolves, we're learning more about the different long-term and short-term effects from the drugs as they're changing and evolving, as the captain and Ben have talked about. One of the things that's very concerning to me that we're even seeing here locally is that with spice, again, we don't even really know what's in that, but what they're seeing is a long-term paranoid psychosis that doesn't seem to be evolved as the drug washes out of their system. And we're actually seeing that here. And so one of the other things that I would look for if I were, a little bit concerned, number one, we know now with the marijuana that's out there, the pot that's out there, a lot of short-term memory loss, which should be very unusual in a child. So if you see them forgetting a lot of things, that should make you suspicious, or at least have a conversation. And then if they act paranoid, if they seem really unusually concerned about different things, they seem paranoid, that's something, again, that you should really be talking to them about. And one thing I just want to say in terms of trust with children, this is a different era. This is a whole different, we are in the middle of a crisis, of a national emergency. I think things have to amp up a little bit. And one of that is, I kind of think maybe it's trust but verify. And so I think you are the parent, you have, ostensibly, the fully developed prefrontal cortex that you can predict the consequences of your behavior. They cannot. It's just like asking them to be taller. They can't do it. So you sometimes need to be a little bit more aggressive than maybe you needed to be 10, 20 years ago. Trust but verify. I could line up 10 kids here and you could not, I bet most of the time you could not tell who's on drugs. You can't just always tell. You have to, that's doctors can't tell. You have to screen because you can't just tell by looking and they're not always going to be forthcoming. So trust but verify. And the last thing I want to say before I introduce Linda is currently our spice laws are very inadequate in this state. And that's something you're going to be hearing about in the next year or so, I think, is that we want to get much more, we want to work with the Attorney General to be much more aggressive in our state legislators on how we deal with people who are dealing spice. They're killing our kids. And we need, it's not a misdemeanor, as like it is right now. Isn't it currently a misdemeanor? I don't know if you want to talk about that in a minute, but that's one thing that you're going to be hearing, and I hope that you can champion this cause. These people that are dealing these drugs are not friends. These are people that need to have serious consequences because your child will, or you will. So that's one thing you're going to be hearing us talk about in the coming year. Finally, I want to introduce. Now we painted a dreadful scene. I realize that, a very horrible scenario here. But so what do you do? Well, like I said, this is 2017. What you're doing now is maybe not what you did 10 years ago. And to help us walk parents through what they need to be doing, we have Linda and Nicole from Macmillan Health Education Center to talk about some new resources they have available for parents to, again, educate themselves about this issue.
I'm Linda Hathaway. I'm the Director of Education at Macmillan Health.
And I'm Nicole Chrisley, the Executive Director at Macmillan Health. Today we've brought our parent handout, which we have over here on the podium, and then we also have some handouts to give you guys. We've developed this parent handout. Our CEO attended a conference where the speaker indicated there are no resources out there for parents to start the conversation with their children on opioids. So sitting there, she was like, well, we can do that. We can develop that. So working with the Allen County Department of Health, we developed this parent handout, which we have sent out to all regional schools and regional organizations. So parents can start the conversation. The conversation needs to be started early, as Captain Hunter indicated. 4 out of 5 heroin users indicate that they started using opioids at the age of 15 or earlier. So the earlier the conversation starts, the better. Parents can start this conversation by simply hanging this handout on their refrigerator, talking about it at dinner time. We recently had a parent reach out to us thanking us for this handout because they did exactly that. They put this on their refrigerator, and their kids actually came to them asking questions about, well, what are opioids, and what do I do if someone offers me opioids? So that's how we can start the conversation, is by simply having resources like this available in our community. Linda's going to talk a little bit about what we offer at Macmillan and how we are reaching kids currently through programs to educate them on the opioid crisis.
We actually have a couple of different offerings. We have what we call our Farm Crisis Program, and that's PHARM, Farm Crisis Program. We talk about how innocently oftentimes kids get into addictions, as well as parents. Perhaps they've gotten a prescription for opioids. The parents or the grandparents, they are not locking it up. They are not getting rid of it once they're not using it, and it's available. I have a friend who had a daughter who had surgery, and when they had friends that came over, they wanted to know if they could buy her opioids, and she had been in a horrible accident. And so kids are looking for these things. So as parents, my big parent push here, parents, if you have opioids in your medicine cabinet, in your kitchen cabinet, in your dresser drawers, lock them up. Because not only are your kids at risk, but any kid that's coming to your household. We've had stories about realtors who are taking people around to show new houses or to show houses that are on sale. People are stealing those particular prescription medications, so lock them up. If you're not using them, get rid of them. Go to a drugstore that will take them back so that they are not even in the house, because oftentimes addictions start on a very innocent basis. They're trying it, they're curious, and we know from research that oftentimes it only takes a couple of days, especially with a really young person, because their brain is still developing. So as parents, pay attention to what's going on, but do definitely talk to your kids. It's like any other topic. It's not about one big, long conversation. It's really about thousands of just small, tiny conversations. Reading a news article and saying, this is how this person ended up like this. This is how this person ended up like this. This is the decision that I would encourage you to make. To be upfront with your kids. Sometimes I've gone to PTAs, and these are the parents that are really involved in their kids' lives, and parents want to know that it's okay to say no. So it's definitely important to teach your kids what's important to you, model what you want them to do, and even if you've made some mistakes in the past, let them know you've made those mistakes, but they can make better choices. The other thing is I think we really need to make sure that we're looking at what kind of language we're using around substance use. You can't always look at somebody and say, oh, they're addicted to something, they're a terrible person. It's all about the brain science. And people make mistakes, their brains like it, they really get addicted to these things, and it's called substance use disorder because it's not something they chose. They chose to use, but then it takes over their brain. So when you talk to people who have an addiction kind of a problem as substance use disorder, sometimes there's a lot of shame involved with that. So as a culture, we need to look at the brain science and what's really going on here and make sure that people know recovery works. So lots of information for parents. Lock up your opioids, talk to your kids over and over and over again. We know from research, the kids really do listen. They may not look like they're listening, they're looking over here, they're looking down, they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But they're paying attention. They're watching what you're doing, they're watching what you're saying, and it's important to them. So what we do at the center, or we do lots of preventive programs. We talk about how people can end up becoming addicted even if they didn't intend to. We offer scenarios to the kids, and we talk about the fact that it is illegal to use someone else's prescription, so A, don't do it in the first place, but also sometimes people use them in an incorrect manner. And so we have kids walk through those scenarios. In an adult class, we talk about locking up stuff. We give parents good tips on how to talk to kids. So if you are interested in a class, we have some funding available. We are happy to come to your organization. We are happy to teach at our facility, and we also teach it through interactive video conferencing. So give us a call at 260-456-4511. Our opioid handout is on our site, and it's free to download. So please give us a call and definitely talk to people.
And one other note, the Allen County Department of Health was awarded a grant from the Indiana State Department of Health that will allow for the distribution of naloxone kits to community agencies and first responders in an effort to prevent fatal opioid overdoses. Well, now we switch our focus from health to highways and the end of a major road project that took 20 years of work between two counties. The reconstruction of Lafayette Center Road in Allen County and County Road 900 North in Huntington County. Recently, a ribbon-cutting ceremony marked completion of the $19 million project.
First and foremost, I want to thank Governor Holcomb and the Indiana State Legislature, and specifically David Long and Representative Leonard. Your shepherding of this project of an unprecedented $30 million for a fully funded state project has been tremendous. Thank you. Just a few tidbits that I was able to glean from some friends in our regarding this project, and that this stretch of 3.7 miles of road, 2 miles in Huntington County and 1.7 miles in Allen County, benefits both Allen and Huntington counties. It will spur economic development all along this corridor. And this improvement has also been recognized by the Northeast Indiana Chamber as its #1 project for the region. It was designed in 18 months, and in an additional 18 months was completed. Not only completed, but it completed under budget and a year ahead of schedule. This project of this scope, thank you. The completion of this project is unprecedented as it brings a needed vitality to this corridor that essentially saves 11 miles per trip to I-469 for 8,500 vehicles per day, including 1,500 trucks that use this route every single day, speaking of which. And ultimately, the grade separation to which we are pretty much standing on right now eliminates a dangerous conflict for all travelers, with approximately 60 trains per day that travel this roadway. I think what's even more exceptional is that there are 4 governmental organizations that worked diligently and collaboratively between the Indiana General Assembly, Allen and Huntington counties, as well as INDOT, and a fantastic team of engineers and contractors. So on behalf of Allen County, I want to thank you all not only for what you've done, but for what you continue to do along our borders and continue for this region. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to drop them. I will do this. Gloves.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. This time I'd like to bring to the podium Huntington County Commissioner Tom Wall, who's been instrumental in fostering this all the way through.
Thank you. Beauty is coming behind Teresa. I get rid of a whole page of my speech because you thanked everyone, which is awesome. Sitting in front of us here, representing Leonard, our Senator Holdman, Senator Long. Jim Banks was part of the team when he was a senator in Indiana, and now he's our congressman, thank goodness. And Andy Zay, take note of, I'm going to call these guys our dream team. This road has been trying to be built for quite a few years, long before I came in 2009. Because of the efforts of our representatives in the state of Indiana to help us to get this road corridor completed is absolutely awesome. And you have my thanks, Huntington County Commissioner's thanks also. I'd like to introduce Larry Buzzard, fellow county commissioner that's with me. Rob Miller is not here today. He is with his wife in Minnesota that just went through a major surgery, and she is in our prayers, and I wish them a speedy recovery and a quick trip back to Huntington County. I want to talk about the cooperation, the teamwork from our legislators, our senators, the governor's office, Governor Mike Pence. You have to be proud. He's now our Vice President of the United States, and this is one of the projects that he left us before he took off to Washington. And he definitely can be proud of how quick this project has come along. Troy Hostetler, our Huntington County Superintendent, the meetings that you've gone to, Allen County, our commissioners, your superintendent, everyone has worked together. The support of everyone has been awesome, from our HQ department, Huntington County United Economic Development, and all the Northeast Indiana Economic Development groups, Northeast Regional Partnership representing the counties of all Northeast Indiana. Thank you. They deemed this road as the #1 priority road for economic development in Northeast Indiana and helped push this through. John Sampson's here. Thank you for the work you've done. Northeast Regional Chamber, they've helped us out tremendously. The town of Roanoke, the mayors and commissioners that meet on a monthly basis in Northeast Indiana. Thank you for your help. Every one of them wrote a letter to get this road completed. They deemed this the #1 priority road for economic development. We all know the big business at the end here, General Motors, the just-in-time inventory. You know how many times the trucks have to sit and wait on this railroad for the trains to go by? Now you can see they're just zooming through so we can get their products so they can keep their assembly line going. The whole economic growth in Northeast Indiana, it isn't just this one road here. It's the teamwork of all these organizations that I've just mentioned. Andy had told all the contractors that were here, and you can see their names here, and I won't repeat them. Thank you. We're a year ahead of schedule. This is absolutely awesome. Yes, we're under budget, and you guys know from the state, we're going to come back to you. We don't want you to have the rest of the money back. We want to spend it somewhere here, just so you know that. We have other projects online that we'd like to go. Again, I just want to thank our entire team, the job well done. The cooperation of all the neighbors out here, the ones that are in the group, thank you. The construction companies, you guys kept the road open. You did what you promised. I know we had some inconveniences. We had a couple little hiccups and glitches, but by far, for the rest of our lives while we're here, hopefully in Huntington County, this road's going to just keep going and the traffic's going to keep going by us. So thanks for coming today, and thank you for helping us out.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. This time I'd like to bring to the podium Commissioner Joe McGinnis from INDOT.
Well, good afternoon. It's nice to be up here in Northeast Indiana. As I was mentioning to a few of you earlier, I have family up here in Huntington County, and my wife is originally from Huntington, and so some of you that have been around Huntington County for a while, Bob Strait, former basketball coach here at Huntington High School, now Huntington North, is actually my wife's grandfather. So I am quite familiar with this region of the state as we come back up frequently to visit with them as they're aging well, but still in their 90s. So this project is, it's as I mentioned to Senator Long, as we're sitting here and facing traffic because it's blowing. Look at me, I'm dropping mine too. But as traffic is coming on at us right now, it's quite impressive to see the number of semis that are coming by through here. And so this project really is it's a transformative project. What that does for this northeast region of the state is provides one, public safety obviously is a number one concern for us. Make sure the motoring traffic has a safe route to their destination. It also adds capacity for future growth, not just for 2017, but for the next 10 to 15 years. And it also allows GM and all of the other businesses along this corridor to get their products to their end goal a little bit quicker, a little bit safer. And it also allows for future expansion, which I think is critical. As being appointed to this position in January, I can tell you that Governor Holcomb, as many of the legislators here can also can reaffirm, is that Governor Holcomb, his mission right now is to take Indiana to the next level. As you see on the sign right here, Next Level Roads is a critical piece of all of that in our infrastructure, and he is really, today actually, is trying to bring the world back to Indiana. And I truly believe that a project like this will allow future growth, allows supports the citizens that live here and the future citizens that will live here. As I mentioned, Next Level Roads, it really couldn't have projects like this and the projects over the next few years really couldn't have been accomplished or won't be accomplished without the support of the General Assembly, what was accomplished this past session. So for all the legislators that are here, I cannot thank you enough. It is an awesome opportunity to be at NDOT. We have a lot of growth that's going to be coming for all of us across all 92 counties. And with that, I would also encourage, as you're going to start to see these signs pop up all over the state of Indiana, these orange cones will continue to pop up along with the orange barrels. The men and women in the reflective uniforms and the hard hats, there will be many, many more of them. With the road funding that was provided to us from the General Assembly this past session, this is not the only project that's going to happen. We have thousands of projects coming over the next 5 years, many of those here in the Northeast region. So with that, I strongly encourage you all to heed the construction zones, yield to the signs, please slow down. I know it's a minor inconvenience for a much longer, long-term success in our state, and so I ask that you please slow down, put the phone down, especially when you're entering these work zones. We will continue to increase our partnership with the state police and our local law enforcement officials to make sure that our workers go home and our partners like Primco and EMB and everybody else, that they go home safely at the end of the day, just like the rest of us want to go home and spend time with our family. So thank you very much for being here, and look forward to more projects up here in Northeast Indiana.
You will be busy, Joe, in years to come. When I came to the Senate last year, the mantra, the motto of the Senate and the inner workings was, "We're not kicking the can down the road." I am very proud and humbled at this time to introduce the man that would not let us kick the can down the road, and I think this is a perfect example of dealing with the issues, dealing with the problem, investing in infrastructure for today, for our grandkids and the future of tomorrow. This time, I'm asking Senator David Long to come to the podium and give us some words.
Thank you, Andy. Before I say anything, I'm going to pass the hat around and take a collection to buy a coat for Senator Zay, okay? Then you can share with Commissioner McGinnis. So I know he's cold. Joe, thank you for being up here on behalf of the state and the governor. For those of you who wonder why he spoke so well, he's a former mayor. He likes the podium, all right? You could tell that, and we appreciate your presence here today very much. We're really here today for one reason, and one reason only, and that's because this region knows how to collaborate, how to get along and work together. Local governments talk to each other. That's rare in this state and most states. They support each other. We, economic development organizations, work together. We see a number of our leaders here today who work every day to make our area stronger and better, but they talk to each other and they support each other. Our model of cooperation is one really that's the envy of the rest of the state. Believe me when I say that. And because of that, this road project had the historic and institutional support that it needed to get constructed. When we could tell NDOT as a group of legislators that this was the #1 priority project in all of Northeast Indiana, it made all the difference, particularly at the timing of how to get what we needed to get the $30 million in place to get this going. Every legislator from Northeast Indiana already knew that because we're used to working together. We collaborate. We're the envy of the state legislature, really. No one works better together than the Northeast Indiana group. So, this was a particularly important project, I think, for those of us who've had the history. I know Andy Zay's taking credit for this project, but some things did go on before he got in the legislature. And but those of us who worked and took some of the risk in voting for, the Major Moves project, program, for instance, we saw the projects that were never going to get constructed, right? The Fort to Port, from Toledo to Fort Wayne. And taking a road that was really one of the most dangerous in the entire Midwest and turning into this 4-lane highway now it's remarkable. And the Hoosier Heartland Corridor, for which many of us here today were quite involved, and to see that constructed and in place today. But what is this little 4-mile stretch of road? Why is it so meaningful? Because it's the connection between the Fort to Port and the Hoosier Heartland Corridor. It really is. This little piece that we could never get done, partly because of this railroad, partly because the soil was awful, mostly because we just didn't have the money and no one could figure out a way to get it. But this little piece of road here is very symbolic, and being on this bridge is symbolic as well. And it wouldn't have happened, as Commissioner Wall said, without Governor Pence pushing for additional money to go into our roads. And it never would have happened had not we had the visionary leadership of Mitch Daniels. His Major Moves project and program really did build Fort to Port and Hoosier Heartland, and because of the interest from those dollars that were invested, built this as well. So there are a lot of people to thank. I want to make sure that I mention one guy in particular sitting here in the old hat here, Jay Poe. Jay was the point person for our region on continuing to push to get this done, and it took a lot of years, but Jay, thank you, my friend, for all you did, all right? And for everyone else who had a role in this project finally happening after a good 30 years of talk, and maybe longer than that. This is really a great moment for our area, and it is symbolic, too, of the fact that the Northeast Indiana economy is humming and is going to continue to do so. So thank you all. Everyone here has had a piece of this. You all deserve credit. Appreciate you.
Over the red ribbon. 1, 2, 3.
We're not supposed to really cut, right?
Okay, right. We're not. This is ceremonial.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and we're going to look forward here. Smile for the camera. Perfect. Okay, wonderful. Our next photo will be Heidi and Daniel. You did a great job. Thank you so much. Our next photo is anybody from INDOT would like to make any? If you're here with INDOT.
And that will do it for this edition of our program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mike Green, Public Information Officer in the Allen County Commissioner's Office, and we hope you'll join us again next time on County Line.
Views and opinions expressed may not reflect those of the Allen County Public Library, Access Fort Wayne, and or any other supporting groups. If you are interested in producing your own programs for Access Fort Wayne, you can contact us at 260-421-1250.
We want to wish you and yours very happy holidays.